அந்த மருந்துடு அம்மா ஊத்தணும் அந்த மருந்துன்னு கொண்டு நீ கைய உள்ள வச்சு நோண்டி இருப்ப சக்கச்சவேன்னு சவந்திருக்கு மூக்கு புண்ணு வரணும்னா அதான் காரணம். மேல வரு
Yes. Good evening, dear participants.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening,
Am I
sir.
audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So, thank you so much for all your prayers, first of all. And by the grace of God and all your prayers, it came back. Those who want to record, you can record. We have given you full permission to record. Meanwhile, we will give you YouTube access also. We won't delete like other events. And shall we start? Yes, it is. I'm so excited to see all the people again after a long time. January, what was it? 24th, I had a open heart surgery, and the doctors advised me not to go anywhere. So I was in medication, and this is my first event. I was just under trial pack. Let me check how many of you are going to come if I organize a event. But many people regarding from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, we have received a number of participants and really happy for everyone and the way that you came for us, the way that you have taken care of me. Lots of love to Manipur people for feeding me in all aspects, right? It is not a easy task to give. Giving itself a big task, but Manipur people
Thank
gave
you,
me my
sir.
1 month salary. Sincerely thankful to all the authorities in Manipur, especially to Standard College, Kachin Kono College, and Impal College people who helped me when I don't have nothing. And so this is my concept. I used to support the people when I don't have nothing. And yes, of course, you people are my complete everything. Without taking much time, let me directly go to the main content. We have a resource person, we have inaugural session
Bro,
person, we
your
have our
audio is
IIT.
very poor, bro. Audio very low. Speak a little louder.
Okay,
The audio is
am I audible to another people? Maybe that bosses are having a technical issue. Am I
yes,
audible
yes,
to everyone?
it's
Clear.
okay. Now it's
Yes, sir.
It's so
Yeah.
clear, brothers.
With you also, sir. Thank you. So welcoming all for this beautiful event of the 12 days International Research Methodology Workshop on IPR, as well as research and publication, since we are completely dwell in the path of research and publication. And this is our 14th international event. As I told you very clearly that we never charge money for persons with disability. I can proudly say, uh, Aj, today we have received 51 participants from faculty with disability. So sincerely welcoming my disability people also, because with your support only I'm reaching this level right today. Before starting the session, I was talking to my mom. Ma, this time, as like me, there are 51 participants participated from various parts of India. So this shows that love that you people are giving to me. So very happy for that, first of all. And we are from who we are. We are from IIDM, Integrated Institute of Disaster Management, and I was working for Guru Nanak Institution as an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology. And recently, I became a research guide in the Department of Sociology. So very happy to see you all. And without taking much time, let me invite our expected and honorable director, Dr. Managing Director, Dr. Vasudevan sir, to welcome the gathering. Over to you, Vasu sir.
I am audible, bro.
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Thank you so much. Good evening, good evening to all. Of you. I'm very happy to take part of this program. First of all, I convey my sincere thanks to Dr. Bennett. He's organizing such a wonderful program for the benefit of the research scholar, educationalist, and academist. I'm very happy about that. And I am taking a part to welcome each and everyone for this program. So I can welcome all the distinguished presenter for this program. I will heartily welcome to all the people for our program, and heart welcome to our Indian Sociological Society, who is organizing such an event. And I welcome our State University, Islamic University, Indonesia, respected dean for this program. And I'll also invite all the participants from various parts of this India as well as abroad who are very interested to take part of this program. And I also want to invite all the distinguished collaborators, those who are collaborating in this program. There are so many people who are this time collaborating in our program. So I hope we can program and benefit our program for all the scholars, research scholars, each and everyone. And I welcome all the technical team of our program. There are so many people who are working in and around for this event. So I welcome those people also. And I welcome all the participants from all the part of this India for this wonderful program. Thank you so much, Dr. Bennett, for this wonderful opportunity. Please go ahead. Over to you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Vasu sir. You are completely not audible. I think that you are traveling because of your project work. Yes, sir. Dear participants, and we are organizing this international research methodology workshop in collaboration with IITM, Integrated Institute of Disaster Management, and State Islamic University of Madura, Indonesia, under the tutelage, the Dean, Dr. Gofur sir is with us. In collaboration with all the sociology colleges, Department of Sociology, and Judge College, Tamil Nadu, Department of Sociology, Bishop Caldwell College, Tamil Nadu, where I have graduated my BA as well as I worked as a faculty there, and followed by Department of Sociology, Anjuman Arts, Science and Commerce College, Karnataka, and followed by Department of Sociology, Karnataka State Akka Mahadevi Women University, Karnataka, and Department of Sociology, Government First Grade College, Karnataka, and PG Department of Sociology, Guru Nanak National College, Punjab, and Chandra Kamal Besbaru College, Commerce College, Assam, and our favorite college, Standard College, one of our favorite for a long time. And this time, Department of Home Science came forward to collaborate with us under the tutelage of the Standard College authorities. And regarding this, organizing secretaries for Bishop Caldwell College, Mrs. Vijalin Pakirani, head and assistant professor. She is taking the lead as Honorary Secretary on behalf of Bishop Caldwell College. For St. Jude's College, Dr. G. Andlet, the principal in charge, and also the Faculty of Sociology, taking the lead for St. Jude's College, and Dr. Kyo Hashmi ma'am from the Department of Sociology and Jumon College, he is taking the lead role, and followed by Dr. Rashmi V. Vansa, ma'am, she's a full-time guest faculty working as the Department of Sociology in Karnataka Akka Mahadevi Women University. And Dr. Nidhi Sarup, she is working as a head and assistant professor, the PG Department of Sociology, followed by Dr. Mauneshwar Badigar sir. He is also working as an assistant professor, Department of Sociology, Government First Grade College, Dharwad. And overall, this entire director of this event is Dr. Roshni Baladevi ma'am, and she is the one who used to organize everything in a systematic way and guiding everyone. And whenever there is a help we need, means without any hesitation, she used to say yes. And we have a coordinator from Manipur. Her name is Dr. Anum Amibi Chano. assistant professor in Department of Zoology, and she took a role of a coordinator for this international research methodology workshop. So altogether, it is not a one day, it is not a one-man show. It is all people gathered together for a common mass. When you talk about the case of what was that, Max Weber society is a web of social relationship. That in the sense, as an individual, we can't do anything, right? And with if you all the individual came into a single group, as a group, it is called as one collective activity, and it is called as a web of social relationships also, right? With this from note, and let me formally invite my brother from another mother in another country. Whenever I used to ask for collaboration, Professor Dr. Abdul Gofur sir, he used to give full permission. Bennett, you can use our name. We will come. We will participate, and they are helping us a lot in the field of publication as well as seminars as well as conferences. Whenever we used to organize such kind of events without any hesitations, he used to come us, and he used to help us. If he is not able to come, he will find another resource person, and they also will be doing the needful in a beautiful way. So being associated with him nearly about for the 2 years, the moment I started working for Nirmala Niketan, he is be with me, and we are traveling together for another more nearly about 2 to 3 years. Happy for you. And now this is a time to go for the presidential address. It is will be supposed to given by Dr. Abdul Gofur, and he is the collaborating authority from Indonesia. Over to you, Gofur sir.
Yeah, thank you, brother Professor Bennett Rajadoris for this valuable events. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished scholars, honorable guests. First and foremost, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to all our esteemed international partners for these meaningful collaborations. My sincere appreciation goes to RC25, Sociology of Sport, Indian Sociological Society, New Delhi, the Research and Development Cell of the Integrated Institute of Disaster Management, Philippuram, Tamil Nadu, and Universitas Islam Negeri Madura, Indonesia. I would like also to express my heartfelt thanks to my respected colleague and dear friends, Professor Bennett Rajaduri, whose commitment to academic collaboration has been truly inspiring. Furthermore, I extend my sincere appreciation to all distinguished speakers and resource persons who have generously shared their time, expertise, and intellectual contribution to make this workshop possible. It is both an honor and a privilege for me to stand before you today as we inaugurate the 21st day, the 12th day international workshop on research methodology, citation practices, pattern, intellectual property right, and proposal writing. This kind of program reflects as shared vision to strengthen global academic capacity and foster a culture of rigorous, ethical, and impactful research across discipline and borders. Ladies and gentlemen, in today's rapidly evolving academic landscape, research is no longer confined within national boundaries. Instead, it has become an inherently global enterprise requiring collaboration, critical inquiry, and methodological rigors. Workshops such as this event serve as a vital platform where scholars, researchers, and also practitioners can exchange ideas, refine skills, and also cultivate innovative approaches to addressing complex societal challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, a strong foundation in research methodology is essential for producing credible and meaningful knowledge. Methodological rigor ensures that research findings are not only valid and reliable, but also capable of contributing to broader scientific discourse. This is through this kind of workshop, this kind of conference, the participants are encouraged to deepen their understanding of both qualitative and also qualitative approach. and to appreciate the importance of methodological alignment with a research objective. Equally important is the practice of proper citation, which reflect academic integrity and respect for intellectual contribution. Citation in this case, I mean the citation practice in this case are not merely technical requirement. They are ethical commitment that uphold transparency, accountability, and also scholar honesty. By mastering citation standards, researchers contribute to a trustworthy and interconnected body of knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition, the growing significance of patent and intellectual property right cannot be overlooked. In an era driven by innovation and knowledge economics, protecting intellectual work is essential for ensuring that creators receive recognition and benefit from their contribution. Understanding intellectual property right empower researchers to navigate legal framework while encouraging creativity and responsible dissemination of knowledge itself. And also on the proposal writing, another key focus of this workshop is critical skill that determine the success of research initiative. A well-crafted proposal not only communicates ideas clearly, but also demonstrated feasibility, relevant, and also potential impact. It is through strong proposal that research gain support, funding, and also opportunities for implementation. This workshop also symbolizes that the importance of interdisciplinary and cross-cultural collaboration. By bringing together institutions from India and also Indonesia, we are not only sharing knowledge, but also building a bridge of understanding, respect, mutual growth, such as collaboration, enrich perspective, and open new avenue for research that contextually grounded yet globally relevant. As a participant, I encourage you to engage actively, ask critical questions, and embrace the diversity of ideas presented through these 12 days. Let this workshop be a space for intellectual curiosity, constructive dialogue, and also collaborative learning. The knowledge and skill you gain here should not remain confined to this forum, but should be translated into meaningful contribution to your respective field and communities. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I once again express my deepest appreciation to all organizers, partners, speaker, and also participant. May this workshop be inspiring, not only academic excellence, but also a shared commitment to advancing knowledge for the betterment of society. I wish you all a productive, enriching, and transformative experience. Thank you very much, and welcome in this conference.
Yes, thank you so much, Gopher sir, uh, for your beautiful presidential address for this international research methodology workshop. Dear participants, now is the time to listen to our resource person for the day, Dr. Rakesh sir. Sir is a legend in the field of sociology. So people who knows him personally, Dr. Rakesh Thakur, he is working as an associate professor of sociology at postgraduate government college sector 11 in Chandigarh administration. And we have invited sir on behalf of various participants. They told us, sir, please give a chance to Dr. Rakesh Kumar, sir. So we have sent all the links to the participants. And in the previous class also, sir has given a beautiful lecture on the 15 days international FDP, which was organized by Southfield College, Darjeeling. So now we are really happy. We are fortunate to have a beautiful sociologist among us. And definitely, I'm sure we will be having 2 hours. So I'll be handling the session, and we will start by 6 o'clock. We will end by 8 o'clock. We won't take your time. Meanwhile, we also won't give our time to anyone. Okay, this is what I learned from my seniors. So I won't take your time. Same way, I also won't give my time to anyone. So this is the format we used to follow. Those who are having technical issue, don't worry. We are having the live stream also, as we have mentioned in the mail. If you're not able to follow, particularly people from the southeastern part, northeastern part, Manipur, Assam, those places are having some technical issue. If you're having the same, don't worry. We will be taking care of you. We will be sending you the YouTube links once the class is over. Now, without much delay, Let me invite Professor Dr. Rakis Thakur sir to talk about the topic on global research ecosystem, knowledge protection, and scholarly paradigms on day one. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Am I audible?
You are
Am I
completely
audible?
audible, sir. You are completely
Okay,
audible, sir.
great. Let me share my screen. Entire
Yes, sir. I
screen.
have made as a co-host. You can share the screen, sir.
Okay. Is my screen being shared? Okay, just hold on. Can you see this PPT? Just let me know. Can you see this PPT? Is
Yes,
it
sir.
there?
Give full screen, sir. Give full screen
Yeah,
straight.
I'm just
Yes,
doing it.
from the
I'm just
beginning.
doing it. Yep.
It is
Is it
perfect,
clear?
sir. It is
Okay.
perfect.
Okay. So now because of the bandwidth issue, I would like you to switch off the camera. Okay. So that you can just have the PPT and my voice. But because I'm sitting in my office and there's some work going on regarding, rewiring and all that. Fellow academicians from all over the world, as I speak this evening to you, let me tell you, we all are living through very, very difficult times. We are not in a state of ease, but we all are in a state of strife. What might seem to be a military tussle, what might be seen as a war over who who holds energy fields, oil production, the trading system, or the value of um, dollar in the world economy, there is something very, very uh, fundamental to all of this. And that concerns me and you. That concerns the future generation which is about to come. That also concerns the kind of knowledge system that we have inherited and that we plan to pass on to the future generation. Now, let's try and understand. So, if you would look at the global research ecosystem, it is not something simple. It is extremely complex, but not complex in terms of knowledge creation, but in complex or but it is very complex in terms of how it comes into a being. So I will start my paper with a submission that there are certain things which we must look into when we talked about research ecosystem, knowledge production, and the paradigms involving this. Being somebody from social sciences, I very closely look at different subjects and how they perceive the world around us. Obviously, it is given that the way natural sciences understand the world and the way social sciences understand the world, the aim is common, to improve the way we humans live in this Anthropocene age. It is very, very common to improve, but it is not as simple as it seems to be, because there are institutional structures and epistemological frameworks which are continuously clashing and interacting with each other. It is in this clash of institutional structures and epistemological framework that geopolitical power relations are being made every day. Every statement which a president of the country gives for a certain perspective or against a certain perspective has lot of knowledge, lot of stake of diverse stakeholders, which does not only include government, industry, but people like me and you who are a part of this academic fraternity. Uh, but there are also certain common concern, and globally we often seem to be patting our back that we are collectively trying to do through United Nations, through UNICEF, through all these different humanitarian organizations. We try and argue that when we produce knowledge through these institutions, we are trying to attempt to make the world a better place to live in. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a much flawed assumption. And let's try and understand the politics behind this knowledge production. So, what can we basically say when we talk about global research system? Uh, Before I start talking about this, let me tell you that in this whole of my presentation, I'm going to engage with you at a level of positivist, the interpretative, critical, and the decolonial perspective. Obviously, I would not be going threadbare, detailing each one of them as a master class, but I will try to connect the various points that they are mapping, and then we will together try to map out a common understanding of what's happening all over the world. So when we would sit down and analyze today the contemporary transformation, such as terms like academic capitalism, and through the infrastructure that me and you are having a dialogue. What is that? Digital knowledge infrastructure, which became very, very strong post COVID, right? Then I could see that my voice or whatever I am doing, it is recorded through AI, artificial intelligence. But my question behind all this technology, all these platform is that is it democratizing the academic space, which we all badly want to, or is it again creating hindrances for equity and intellectual autonomy? All of you would have to ask yourself. All of you are well learned, all of you come from a certain background, all of you hold certain positions. There's a certain positionality from which all of you would speak. Now let's see, each one of you sitting out there, can you identify yourself with within this ecosystem which I'm going to talk about? Let's understand the first one: collaboration and mobility. So there is a transnational partnership. Now let me tell you what a transnational partnership. So in my last talk also I had mentioned that as an act of volunteerism, I worked with Global Fund Round 7, uh, organization by run under Bill and Melinda Gates, where I used to work as a counselor. Then I went to become a supportive supervisor, and my job was to do things like bereavement counseling, grief counseling, crisis intervention and problem solving. And I was so happy that finally whatever I had learned, I could give it back to the society. But this is where I would take a pause. As I got deep into this act of research, action research, I realized that there is a heavy politics behind every action research. What might in the beginning seem to me to be a great design, I also understood that there were many other parts of it. And many a times in many a country, when these transnational partnership projects come, they do a lot of good, but they also treat the subject as a guinea pig, right? You are reduced to a statistical number, which is the calling of the science. I don't argue. I'm not saying that let's abandon the method and the methodology. What I'm trying to tell you is that why something is studied by a transnational NGO and why something is not studied. It is not merely the concern, but it is the business interest. It is the other facet which comes into there. Virtual labs and the movement of researcher to foster talent development and share knowledge. What me and you are doing is we are just trying to share our knowledge in the brief time. Now let's look at infrastructure and resources. So we have this very beautiful platform as I speak, but I remember that our great coordinator, he made a mention. He said, those of you who are having issues, we are immediately going to send you the YouTube link, so on and so forth. But the question is that also 100% assured? Will there be not a break in the narrative that I have started sharing with you? Will there not be a pause in their acceptance as they fumble with their keyboards, with their phone, with their mic? So physical facilities, databases, I understand they are necessary for modern science, but are they truly shared, or they are kept in some labs? So why is it that from so many years we only see Nobel Prize laureates from the first world? Please, let us not be apologetic that the third world doesn't have a brain. So whose brain are we talking about? Whose knowledge are we talking about? Whose research are we talking about? And here comes the big backing, as we call funding and policies. There are diverse financial support mechanism and open science policies that encourage transparency and cross-disciplinary research. It, these words, they sound very, very nice. Transparency. We are an equal opportunity employer, cross-disciplinary. People from all disciplines are welcome to apply for the project. But if you would go and look at the so-called meritocracy and transparency and cross-disciplinary, you will see that there is a certain tilt which I will talk about later. Now, these global framework are designed to ensure ethical research standard while safeguarding against interference. Again, this is a very, very ideal situation. Let me tell you, in the field of health, in the field of medicine, there are obviously ethical committee, but many a time when they are doing stem cell research, when they are doing things which are at times not allowed by the government, these private companies are heavily funding. Now is the time that we have start asking question: is the COVID vaccination really risk free? Despite the pandemic and the death looming or knocking on your door, was it really compulsive to do a mass vaccination program? Now remember, we are not taking sides here as social scientists. We are just positing the problem, because every day you would hear in newspaper that there is some gentleman, there is some film star, there is some ordinary farmer, there is some housewife, they fall while riding a bicycle, they fall while being in the gym, supposed to be the epitome of fitness. So what problem did we address exactly? Or did we address one problem but opened up a Pandora box of so many other problems? Now these are the issues which require collective action. Are we writing about them? Are we questioning them? Or falling in line to get published and in India improve our API score? Okay. So let's understand, as a social scientist, I always tell my PhD scholar, I'm very, very interested at how you would look at the problem. So simply speaking, this is perhaps known to everybody. An epistemological framework in research is the philosophical foundation determining how knowledge is acquired, validated, and justified. So you have a research design and you have a research problem, and you go to the field, you acquire the data, then you look at the theory, then you look at literature review, your research questions come from the gaps that are there, and in the end your research should either agree, disagree, but it has to justify based on systematic and scientific review. So primarily it is the researcher assumption about whether knowledge is objective and measurable, which we generally call as quantitative techniques, or subjective and constructed to an extent we call that the interpretative understanding, directly influencing research design, methodology, and the interpretation of finding. I'm sure all of you would have done research, you would have guided PhDs, or during your own you would have come through these questions. But why these questions, even after so many years of research going on, becomes central to your life and my life? What is the kind of research that these first world are doing, where their epistemological framework tells them that attack a country based on certain presuppositions that they would have weapon of mass destruction, which was proven wrong in Iraq, and in Iran, they are saying the same thing. Do you understand? When you fight, when you look at your history, when you look at your society and the responses, where is that you do not find an epistemological framework? So now, as me and you sit in the comfort of our house or office and discuss these things, remember, can there be a participant from Iran joining us? Can there be a student of social sciences from Gaza who would be able to listen to us? They would not care. They would say this whole epistemological framework is a farce. You know, I would say that. They would think it as a failure of humanity, as a failure of all the thinking that has gone about. Why is I am calling it a failure? For a simple reason, because an epistemological framework is essentially the theory of knowledge. So, you know, if you would look at this, so there's a data. Now, are the data always objective? What would have told a first world country what kind of data they would have got, which would have told them that by a small country in Middle East would blow them apart? So for thousands and thousands of kilometers, they take their warship to attack. Obviously, I'm sure this would also be based on certain presupposed military knowledge, intelligence knowledge. So it is not only about political science, economics, psychology, philosophy, sociology, anthropology. It is the theory of knowledge is about your life, my life, and our very existence. And we do not know what is. So is data cooked up? Is data being manufactured? Is it something like manufacturing consent? You're asking your population to agree with you in your war effort. So, in information, and then I raise this question, description of what? So, you paint the enemy as monster. You label, you know, Howard Baker labeling theory in the deviant. So, the powerful is labeling the other. Now, when you label the kind of knowledge that is generated, I think the knowledge is treading on very, very dangerous territory. Now, the instruction is how to understand this knowledge and to explain to people. Thus, wisdom. At this juncture, as the war goes, do any one of us in the audience or other learned guests who are there, can anyone tell me what is the best based on any kind of research methodology? There's a big question mark. What is the right thing to do? Doing the right thing. All the research, all the 15 days workshop that you would go, somewhere does it not tell us that this global research ecosystem, this knowledge production, and this scholarly paradigm which me and you are discussing, what should it lead to? It should lead to wise decision. But tell me, when we look around, how much of wisdom can you really reflect upon from the very streets that you walk in, to the cities that you live in, to the rivers that you cross, to the sky in which you fly, in the trains and the buses that you take, in the governance and the polity that we. So epistemological approach needs to be grounded very, very strongly, that there should be common wisdom. The wisdom should not be in university and classroom. It should percolate down as a common wisdom. You know, so epistemological framework primarily tells us how we know and what we know. So I gave you two examples. One was of COVID-19, how we knew that this had to be this had to be the vaccination, and what we know and what we don't know. And why we know? Because we were allowed to know certain things. And why we didn't know? Because we were not allowed to know certain things. Just as in the case, one doesn't know what exactly is the core reason, because there are so many theories, one as strong as another, floating, trying to defend their positionality. Whether you're a government, whether you're an activist, whether you are a caregiver, whether you are a victim, or whether you're an aggressor. It all depends which size you are. So, what constitutes valid knowledge primarily depends on the source of that knowledge and how you go on to justify it. So, the research is whether it is a positivist or an interpretist, it gives an impact of what we are reading and what we are not reading. Uh, this empirical insights from our own country, South Asia, or from the world, you would realize there's a lot of expansion and contraindications of emerging research question. When you would start looking at everything from a framework, whether this is positivism, primarily celebrating the quantitative research, and obviously there is no harm in it. It depends on what are your research questions, or interpretatism, as I already said, in a quality, or a more pragmatism, whatever works. I think if you look at the pragmatic approach and the critical theory approach, I think nothing seems to be actually working. The whole knowledge production seems to be subdued to the global forces that are out there. So we now why did it happen? Why, when I meet students from computer sciences, and few years ago when I used to know them, they used to be so happy about this whole, that they have mastered this coding program, they have learned this. And now when I look at their faces, when they came to the engineering college in the first year, and 2-3 years later on, they realize that what they have learned has created something which is a job snatcher. So me and you live in a knowledge economy. It is an economic system where growth is primarily driven by the production, distribution, and use of knowledge and information. So what you produce is not necessarily what you distribute. You choose to whom you distribute, how much you distribute, and how much you hold back. So this use of knowledge and information are the modern properties like land, natural resources, or manual labor. Let's look at few of the examples in terms of intellectual capabilities. So innovation are the primary drivers. Every time I read an article on Tesla or Elon Musk, or I see that his rocket, the X, is going up in the sky or taking, I understand that now it is this system, it is this control over a country, over the global market, over the way things are being done, that there is a clear cut digital divide that is happening between the have and the have nots. But let's look at, so first there is me and you, the human capital. We all are, we all are highly paid proletariat. Perhaps when Marx said dictatorship of the proletariat, it did not happen then, but it's happening now, because me and you, or all of us, those who come from the supposedly middle class, we spend our whole life learning, publishing, writing, so we can move closer to the definitions set in by the first world. We are trying our best to learn the latest software that is coming from the West. And there are so many courses I would see. You would get it in WhatsApp. And let me tell you, 50 years ago, or after World War, when we did not have a deluge of problem solving and data analysis, the world did move slowly, but the world did move surely. Mouths slowly were being fed by the food that mattered. The more knowledge we had to take our natural assets into cartons, in terms of milk, in terms of edibles, we started losing on our health. And now we are losing our mind. I remember when I was a student, there never used to be something called nootropic for a good sleep, for a stable mind, for being non-irritable. We used to do that without any of this advertisement or buying. But nowadays, I see many youngsters. So, what are we exactly doing? How would it matter? And why is it that? Is it another way to enslave? So that with the help of AI and other, people at a certain time would stop thinking altogether because AI would be doing that? Well, these are futuristic questions, not to make anybody, but the question is when I think, or you think, or we think in terms of value. Can in this world knowledge based economy, knowledge has been created, but when knowledge starts perpetuating, then it starts perpetuating certain kind of pattern which might be loaded in favor of few, such as patents, copyrights, proprietary software, and brand reputation. So it is not that one is against science or knowledge progressing. It is just that one feels that why is not there a copy left? Why is not there more of a open software sources? Why is such that one needs to advertise a lot to build a brand? A brand is not built by the inheritance goodness that the product carries. So in the age of knowledge economy, there's a strong innovation system, there is a digital infrastructure, high speed internet, advanced information communication technology, enabling the rapid exchange and processing of information. It is good, but let me tell you, many a times I have seen students clicking when I write with, I'm an old fashioned teacher. So when I use a chalk on the blackboard and draw some diagram of kinship categories or teach them various other things, they just click the photograph after the class. I doubt if that ever gets translated into knowledge, or it is just a part of their gigabyte on their phone. Okay. So if you would look at a statement by World Bank, it says a thriving knowledge economy rests on four essential pillars: economic and institutional regime, policies that provide incentive for the efficient use of knowledge and encourage entrepreneurship. Okay, so I really like the first one a lot. And in being a sociologist, the way we have the midday meal scheme in India and the right to education, so I agree that policy that provide incentive for the efficient use of knowledge and encourage entrepreneurship. I do not know, I'm forgetting that gentleman's name, but he was a Delhi School of professor, and it was he who during the first government of the left and the Congress came with this whole plan. Oh, sorry, his name was John Drez. He was a French guy working in Allahabad, also BHU, also Delhi University. So he gave this whole idea that if students are not coming to the class, what should be done? So he said, even if you give them free education, the parents would say, we can't send our kids on an empty stomach. So what is the economic incentive that was done? That the midday meal scheme was started. And I think it was great. It was a great successful experiment because I know a lot of students who have come through this and then they have gone through Navodaya Vidyalaya and they come to college and universities and have succeeded in life. I can really see. So in that case, hats off to knowledge economy. If this is what knowledge and economy is, or an educated population that can create and use knowledge effectively. In my country, I would say, most importantly, when we go to vote, if we are really using a epistemological perspective to vote, I know it sounds a bit far-fetched, but imagine if the whole country starts voting on a very reasoned and measured way, which thinks of development in terms of not only economic but inner and outer. That would be great. But where does it happen? Democracy at times, it seems that pearl not anywhere, but everywhere in the world. So again, it becomes very, very debatable. Let's look at the two example in our neighborhood, the Bangladesh and the Nepal. The student unrest. Why did the student unrest happen? What was the knowledge based on which they revolted? What was the knowledge on which the government structure was made? And why there was a paradigm shift? I all will be coming to that. So, if you would look at these both, Bangladesh and Nepal, so the first thing that a state does it, that it clamps on the ICT facility, so that communication should not go, so that information should not be processed, right? So it's all a kind of a tug of a war. So you can use all this for the advancement, or you can use all of this to control and have a close look at the population. Okay, so now let's understand few of the knowledge intensive industries that we are talking about. I'm sure we all have heard of Silicon Valley in the US, our very own Pune, Bangalore technology, Hyderabad, development of AI, cloud computing, mobile apps, okay, professional services, high-end consulting, legal services, accounting and finance. Lot of students who do BCom commerce in India, they finally end up in the few of the multinationals like Ernst and Young. What are they doing? They are filing the tax return of many of their American client and European client, or for that matter, biotechnology and healthcare, advanced medical research, or people like me and you, higher education and research driven academic institution. Remember, India under NEP has opened up its market for me and you to welcome globally famous universities, obviously with a rider that they would set up their houses and they would teach, but they would also charge a certain fees which would be beyond many of the Indians, right? Now, so let's pause and think about that. Everything that seems extremely well intentioned is not always so. And I will give you a good example of that. I remember around about 10, 11 years ago, I was in a state of India, so where I used the center periphery framework to understand that how much midday meal scheme was successful. So this was the state capital. So I took the so I said, well, this state has got 5 major districts, and I took the periphery of that, the last village of that particular zone, and I went at all of there, and it was a hill state of India. It was a government study, and I realized that in those remote locations there was another side of the story to the well intentioned midday meal scheme. A scheme which just now I, in front of you, said is extremely engaging and effective to improve the academic standards of young mind in our country, also had certain outliers. What was that? When I went, I realized that these institutions, one school had 3 to 4 teachers. One class with a teacher used to go into the nearby forest to collect wood, and one teacher would cook, and the two teacher would teach one class, and one class would go. This is 1 to 4th school. I was shocked. Not shocked, I was appalled. They said the government only pays for the price of the gas cylinder as the price of the gas cylinder is. But in the hills, the people who come up and give the gas cylinder, they charge certain money for it. So from whose pocket will we give that? Now, do you understand? So what they used to do, they used to take the kids out, collect firewood, come back, two teacher would cook, because the rule was if the midday meal scheme is not served and the DO comes to know of that, the teacher's salary would stop. Imagine a whole government program thought so thoughtfully made with wonderful intention, but still at times there are ways in which this will not happen. uh, belong. So there's no system in the world which will finally tell you that if you look at this perspective, there is going to be a homogenizing effect, because the situation, the place, the context, the cultural background, all of these would have their own variations. So now if you would look at certain global knowledge index, and many of us would like to go and work in these universities, given a chance, many of us would like to, migrate, especially to one at number 4. I would not as of now, and not many Indians too, or they might think of coming back, or they have been deported back. But let's look at all of them. Sweden at number 1 in 2024, Finland, Switzerland, Denmark, the Netherlands, all the Scandinavian countries. Why is it that it is only in these countries we tend to believe that knowledge exists, and everywhere else people are like bumbling fool? And why is that? In all these countries, production of goods are great, but they want to come and sell it into the third world countries what their own population won't buy. These are the questions which we must ask. So when I ask these questions, we are directly positing knowledge and geopolitical power relation. The geopolitics of knowledge production refers to how geographical location. Now let's use this word very, very carefully. So all of you, those in India, in colleges would be filling up your iShare form. Am I right? All of you would be filling your iShare data. In iShare data, there is a clause that you have to give your latitude and longitude of the college. Those of you who do not stay on the border, you don't understand the difficulties. But if you stay on the border, you have to be very, very careful, because a few degree left or right would land you up in a country, your institution to which you do not belong, neither does your institution. So there's a lot of power dynamics in Punjab, whether it is the Punjab in India or the Punjab in Pakistan. There are a lot of historical legacies, so they all influence what is considered legitimate knowledge. So the issue which I want to raise on is, there's this very famous classical divide which Edward said between the Oriental and the Occidental. So why is that? If you are very good in Western perspective, if you know Foucault and Derrida and maybe few others, you are supposed to be very, very well read. You go to a university conference and seminar and everyone gapes at you. But if you talk about a local narrative and you try to tell them stories from there, policies from there, it is why that we shun these, and we always look at across the seven seas, whether it is the ranking of the university, whether it is getting published in journals, or working with international organization. It has literally become a rat race. But unfortunately, none of us would say that we don't want to be a part of the rat race, because Indian academia is blindly following the Western academia. To follow the standards of learning, the rigor, I do understand. But what consists of that knowledge? What is the context of that knowledge? That we really need to understand through our own perspective. That is where Indian knowledge system, or IKS, is a great change. I don't know why after so many years after independence, we started giving space in our university classroom and campus to IKS. Why did we always keep it neglected? Was there a politics in it? Or that it has been now come to the center? Is there a politics in it? These are the questions which our knowledge must seek to understand. Now, what are the key aspects of the geopolitics of knowledge? That also becomes very, very important. Now, so shifting the geography of reason. This concept challenges the Eurocentric colonial and patriarchal foundation of knowledge, advocating for moving the center to include diverse perspective. We have been a colonial country. Like us, many of the countries in South Asia, Southeast Asia have gone through the same perspective. So there's a whole post-colonial kind of an argument where we say that our mindset is like that, our economic status is like that, our political behavior is like that, because we suffer from the colonial rule. There's a commonality of colonial rule which makes us behave in certain way. But why is that when I'm teaching my master students and I'm teaching them theories like development, that I again have to go to many Western thinkers to understand the development process? Why did it not take off in the third world countries based on a Western understanding? There were a lot of naysayer or doom's prediction who would say the country like India would not survive. There's so much of contradiction, so much of variation that it would collapse under its own weight of expectations. So the if you would look why the westernized university model, curricula and global academic ranking sustain a structure where Western knowledge is seen as universal and other knowledge system are treated as local or peripheral. So I hope I'm trying to argue that why the very seats where we start learning, and when you start learning, what you learn, when you learn, why you learn, how you learn, this all is situated. That means it is influenced by the social, political, and spatial location of the producer. So this often results into what is academic hegemony. High ranking journals, often in Q1, frequently based on the global north, dictate which topics and methodologies are deemed valuable, impacting how knowledge is published and disseminated. I remember in my mail, I don't remember, in fact, every week from so many journals, especially from Sage and other score, I get, do you want to publish in this journal? If you want, visit the site and understand. They are dictating me that this is the format in which I must send them their, I must send them my findings. If you do not adhere to the systematic way in which the journal gives, that would be the first round of rejection. So let me confess, when I tell my students to work hard for publication in good journals based on their pedigree, I tell them take last 4 or 5 issues, go to the area in which you are doing the research, pick out those topics and really look at their methodology, the construction of the language, and see if you can make a poor copy of it and show it to me. It is not that I am asking them to lose their originality, but I understand that when they would be facing me in a selection board, that whole assistant professor, associate professor, all these are point mark. So let me tell you, there is this very great duality between them. Sometimes even very ordinary journal carry beautiful article, but the question is, me and you would not like to quote from it. We would only like to quote from journals which are ranked, because there is this dangerous nexus of citation. We all are continuously hunting not for the growth of knowledge, but how many times did you get cited? And let me tell you, there is also a beautiful politics behind it. You scratch my back, I scratch my back. In many streams of knowledge, I see for one article 14 to 15 people. At some they are the first author, in some they are the 14th author, but all of them get cited. So let's not get into those debate. But now, what kind of impact does it have on the global discourse? So marginalization. Do you see? Let's look at the great doctors in our country. Do we have? Have you seen this debate happening that when government of India tried to somehow mainstream homeopathy, Unani, Ayurveda, there was a big hue and cry by this Western discourse of diagnosis saying that their knowledge is not medical knowledge. So all these things which now we are giving them space under the umbrella of IKS, I hope I'm able to put up my case that non-Western knowledge systems such as indigenous or southern epistemologies are often excluded or undervalued, or they are treated as exotic. Ladies and gentlemen, and all the scholars that you are there, we must start doing research in our society, for our society, from our own perspective. But that would require lot of rigor. You know, as a social scientist, why we have to borrow Western concept. You know, there's a book called In Pursuit of Lakshmi by Rudolph and Rudolph, where the couple use a term called bullock cart capitalist for the rise of the OBC population in the Western Uttar Pradesh politics. Imagine it is a Westerner who had to come to India to do a field visit and explain us that how there is a rise of OBC and there is a consolidation of votes, and he calls them a bullock cart capitalist. Could we not understand our land? Could we not understand our farmers? Were we bereft of any? Why? They came at a time when the whole of India was moving to India from the Bharat. There was a great divide. People were leaving the villages, and all these Westerners came to India to study the Indian village. And there's a gamut of Indian village studies, but they became the experts. So if you look at the answers which my students write, well, they will quote Paul Brass, they will quote Rudolph and Rudolph, and somewhere obviously Rajani Kothari sir would also come into the picture. But the big dadas of understanding the Indian society, from caste system, Louis Demo, to your, you know, any other kind of a thing that you want to study, you would always find a Western imprint. These are the expert, and we quote them. We continuously quote them to validate our own knowledge. So narrative production methodology is used to analyze these kind of structure, emphasizing situated knowledges as a way to challenge dominant narrative. Let me confess, in this whole of this production, I have used this narrative production methodology again and again from the matter that I could get, you know, to continuously develop a critique of the dominant Western narrative. Okay, I'm continuously talking about this situated knowledges. Okay, so there is a hegemony, all of you know, and then there is this epistemic hegemony, as if the West knows all, as if the West knows what is correct, and the South, which have been rooted in colonialism and are currently being sustained by neoliberal structure. So what is celebrated in India? Every state is dying for that beautiful pie that Elon Musk would set up its factory in one of their capital. They would give free land. They would give free water. Or there is this whole, you know, fascination with setting up AI. I remember when Coke and Pepsi started setting up shops in India where there was already water scarcity being felt. The moment they set up the shop, the water level, especially in southern India at many places, the water table started going down. So the current global landscape, if you look at about it, you know, whether it is the Venezuelan president in the midnight getting airborne with his wife and paraded in the streets, showing the masculinity of a certain country, It is these Anglo-American institutions which act as the core producer of a theory, while the rest of the world is often relegated to providing raw data or case study. So, because we have such a large population, please come and inject us, stab us, and see if we live or die. So, when the West gets the same injection, they would have done further improvement, because the fourth world or the third world would have acted at a certain level like a guinea pig. Okay, so one is there is the Anglophone hegemony. English has become the mandatory lingua franca of science. Sorry, I am also speaking in English. This is an international conference. But remember, all my good and dear friends from Indonesia, Vietnam, and other countries, remember, English was never ever your mother tongue. But these colonial rulers made us learn French, made us learn English. Few of them, as pastime, learned Sanskrit, learned Persian, and even in those domains, they became father of Indology. There are museums, there are languages, and they are celebrated as a great Indophile. But behind their love for this country, for the language, or the country to many of you who are not Indian, to which they came here to conquer. They came to understand so that they could bleed us more effectively. Obviously, it was not a homogeneous crowd. There must have been some very genuine humanitarian. But you have to understand that their specific notion of rationality or progress, which we are following in our university, which we are following in our judicial system, which we are following in our medical sciences, I doubt if India was ever so ill mentally as it is now. Okay, so then there are this gatekeeping and matrices, Web of Science, Scopus. If you would really, if any one of you would really go to their editorial board, take all the magazines that are listed there, you would realize what I mean by this term: academic capitalism. It ensures that only knowledge conforming to Western standard is validated and cited, and those which are cited from our own country have been educated in those countries. Even if they are developing a critique of those the same system, it is being heard because they are the part of the faculty out there and not here. So everybody I have seen in my intellectual the role as a teacher, more as a learner, less as a teacher, I realize there's a spark, and they again go back, they cross to the other side, because everybody wants to be a part of the hegemony gangster, whether it is academic or streetwise. Everybody believes that power comes if you're at the center of the power. So what does it have on the global south? Me and you get invisible. Many of us, I know many of the students, they have this common refrain: even if you will try, sir, we will not get published, because they have given up even before starting, because there's such a big aura created, as if those journal, those authors, they are the repository of not only knowledge but perhaps also of the truth. So many of the journal perhaps have zero African representation. So what kind of world are we talking about? There are so many studies where AI has been asked to write the description of a person from a particular caste. And the AI, those who have done this review, they say that AI, because it is trained by human being, so the ideal which they write it with as much, I would say, as much of prejudices as a man would be. So, is this the kind of algorithmic colonization that we all are welcoming in our life? You all must think we all are engaging with technology. Without this technology, you would not be able to hear me and I would not be able to talk. But are we slowly getting coerced? And is it that, or can we use this platform to not let the erosion of local expertise happen, but this continuous dialogue which this platform has given us would help us fight off this epistemic injustice? So traditional and indigenous knowledge system of your country, of your society, of your culture, please do not dismiss that unscientific if the Western framework says so. I'm saying do not be overbearing with it. Do not try to prove it where there is no proof, but at least settle with its positionality. Be comfortable. Don't be ashamed to look within, to look what our forefathers have left for us. Because if that would have been so futile, why we would have survived? And believe me, we have survived better than the Western world. How many times we have been the aggressor? We have always even co-opted the aggressor in our country in many ways, and that is how it has become a beautiful place. We have understood that when they come, they not only come, but they also come to share. Look at the proposition that the Western world is doing. It only wants those to come now who it thinks will add to their hegemony. All our scientists, all our data scientists, all our coders, they want all the best of the people. So what are we? Are we the backyard of the world, left over for them to come and dump their capitalist enterprise in terms of market and produce so we can give them money? Is this a new divide that we are seeing? I wonder how those who would have invested in Burj Khalifa would be feeling today evening. The whole of the Middle East was sanctified by these superpowers who are the seats of this knowledge that we are there to look about you. But I doubt if these promises by the great world power, how convincingly it will sound in this post anxiety era that me and you exist in. Okay, now it is not that we have completely given up. There are a lot of scholars and activists which are increasingly calling from decoloniality to challenge this imbalances. There are people who are writing regional knowledge and what is that? Rate Samadhi. I hope all of you have heard the name of this book. So this book was written in a regional language, Hindi, and or even the last year Booker Prize. It was from a regional language. It was translated into English. So it is not that the world is not noticing you. The world is not trying to understand, but in the power centric, where literature is there like a nice scented handkerchief, where science becomes the main course, where maths become the main salad, where a lot of algorithm comes in terms of soupy knowledge. That is where the southern theorizing is not being looked into. Well, people can come from south, but they must come to mimic these northern model. If you can be a part of that battery of people who they require to work in their labs, you are most. But if you start questioning this whole social, historical and geographical location and question them, well, they will hear you out, or they will brand you as somebody who is not in tune with the true knowledge that they seem to profess. Okay, so now let me get to few of the thinkers which I think they are from the Western world and they have developed a critique. So many of you would have talked of period Bourdieu, you would have taught social capital, cultural capital, will not get into that. But Bourdieu viewed academic hierarchies as mechanisms for reproducing social inequality. You know, he conceptualized academia as a field of struggle where actors compete for symbolic capital. I hope all of you can understand what is symbolic. If you get published into an Elsevier or a Scopus index with an impact factor of XYZ, you tell it to so many people. But if you get published in somewhere local, you show it to few of your friends and write it down quietly. So when you go for interview, you just carry them. But you have the scopus. Now let's see the hierarchy working. If you have two scopus, you will keep it on the top. And the first thing that they will ask you, so tell us something about yourself. After telling your name, you will not even look left and right, and you will parade your scopus based article. There's no wrong into that. But I'm telling you, is that the whole effort? Are you making the effort to do research, or is the research being written in a way so that it can be published in this journal? So universities and discipline, Bourdieu argues, function as a field of competition where individuals compete for capital, for jobs, for teaching position, for research grants. Those with high pre-existing cultural capital, the privileges, dispositions. Did your parents send you to a public school? Did you went for English speaking courses? Did you go to a math tuition to write your JEE or medical exam? How much of? So actually, you are not ever brilliant. It is the kind of effort that your parents made into. So this whole halabula con around academic merit sounds to me very, very hollow. We must understand in very, very clear term the difference between equity and equality. Ladies and gentlemen, dear scholars, it is important to understand that in academic world, it is equity that we must talk about, right? So you must have heard. So cultural, these are the terms which you must have done. I'm just trying to put it in terms of, cultural capital and habitus. So students from dominant social background arrive with a habitus. Let me tell you, I was at Delhi University in the 90s, and there is a very, very famous college from which very genuine and very, very brilliant students pass. And those are those 7 8 colleges which are called as North Campus College. I also happen to study in one of them, so I'll not take names here. Nothing against those who are in South Campus, but there was so much a sense of achievement within those who were there in this North Campus College in terms of their dispositions, language, behavior. So what did those college did for these students? Actually, all the students who came were already having 90% and above. They were already good. They got a direction and they did very well in life. But did we ever raise a toast to those colleges where students with 55%, 50% came and also went out to do very well in their life? So when you would meet later on in life, you would see many of these students proudly parading their institutional affiliation. There's nothing wrong in it. But when there comes a sense of hierarchy in the interview panel, and if you see somebody from those, your eyes lit up because you are also have studied, and there's some soft corner, I think hierarchy and systematic discrimination sets in. So there is a talk of symbolic violence. Academic institutions legitimize these inequalities, making privilege appear as natural ability or intelligence, which is not so, ensuring lower class students lack the necessary resources to compete effectively. Though I even disagree, many students, even from lower class, they go on to do very well in life because nothing beats hard work. It doesn't matter where you study or where you don't study. I don't deny that the influence are not there. Your contemporary, your peers, they define what you study, why you choose certain subjects, why you do well in life or why you don't do. But at the end of the day, it is in Anthony Giddens' term, you are the agency. The structure is all around you. So there's this continuous dialogue. So they are even in the best of the institution after studying from, say, the public school, the best of the public schools in India, or then coming to the best of the colleges, still you might end up as a failure, or you might end up as a drug addict, or you might end up as an invalid. Okay. But what I want to reinforce is that those with high status background generally seem to acquire knowledge, and in this process our institutions are reinforcing social inequality. So Bourdieu talks about reproduction of inequality. He says educational institutions, whether your or mine, are not neutral. They are designed to perpetuate social inequalities, transferring privilege across generation rather than creating a truly meritocratic structure. Okay. So this is the famous Pierre Bourdieu, and he talks about, his whole work talks about that academic success is often a matter of accumulating institutionalized cultural capital. I went to Oxford, I went to Harvard. Where is that where I went? So along with social networks developed in school, colleges, universities, these goes on to, do you understand, have you heard that if you have studied in Harvard, the chances of your children getting admission there becomes very bright. But if you have not, despite them being very brilliant, the chances of their getting admission becomes very thin. Or are you that trillionaire or billionaire where in name of your grandfather you have an endowment or a chair? Then your whole family, perhaps generations to come, would be allowed to enter and would be looked after. Right? So these are the privilege which academic hierarchies entail. Okay. Now let's come to another thinker which is very, very powerful. This is Michel Foucault. Now, Michel Foucault, knowledge power nexus, posit that power and knowledge are inseparable, mutually reinforcing, non hierarchical, and thus forming power and knowledge regime. So, power is not merely top down coercion, but a pervasive and discursive force that defines truth, normalcy, and societal norms to govern individuals. And here I would stop and I would talk about one of his favorite book. So his book on methodology is called Archaeology of Knowledge. I'm sure all of you have heard of it, where he talks about looking from truth in not linearity, but in ruptures and break. So he writes this beautiful book, which you must read, because perhaps we need again to come back to what Foucault started doing and redefined what is madness in our age. Madness at an individual level, madness at a collective level. So, in this very seminal work, where he used the method and methodology he applied in archaeology of knowledge, which is called the history of madness and civilization. If you would look in that book, it is such a beautiful book. In every age, he says, the mad is one who is declared by the dominant class. And why is he or she being declared a mad? Because they do not agree with the dominant discourse. So in ancient times, he would argue, Foucault would say that mad people, supposedly mad people, let me use that word very, very strongly, supposedly mad people were put in boats and sent to the enemy king, where they would be disembarked and the boat would return empty hand. And Foucault makes a great analogy. He says, if you would look at the land is situated, it doesn't move. And these mad people are floating in water. There's a vibrancy, there's a dynamism. Knowledge is like that. Knowledge cannot be fixed, it needs to travel, it needs to spread. So he says, actually, those whom you are calling mad are perhaps not mad. It is the knowledge and power nexus of that particular historical epoch which declares them at mad. And in the whole book, he goes on to tell that how the definition of mad kept on changing from the beginning when they were ferried away from one land to another. as being anti-state, anti-king, to being put into the dungeons as mental leapers. The definition of madness has kept on changing. And ladies and gentlemen, don't you think of what is happening around the world? We really need to redefine, relook, and perhaps add so many other dimensions where perhaps the most powerful would also be qualified to call mad, right? So key aspect of this power knowledge uh, nexus, let's try and understand. So there's an independence. Knowledge does not exist in a vacuum. We all have it. Is created, shared, and used to exert power. Conversely, power requires knowledge to establish, justify, and maintain its influence, right? So it's a give and take. It's you scratch my back and I scratch your back. So let me give an example how this is great interdependence. So in medieval India, when a king was crowned, it was sanctified by the religious institution. So if you would come to Delhi, you would see that there is this old Delhi, and across the road is the political institution, which is the Lal Killa, and on the other side is the Jama Masjid, the sacred Jama Masjid, which is the religious institution. So the religion, the religious structure, and the political structure were always created, shared, and used to exert power over the commonality. This is one of the examples which I can think of, that this interdependence is not only today, it has existed. So when you talk about MAGA, Make America Great Again, you understand that it is the call by the WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, who are the core voters, not exactly, but who do support the kind of political regime that we have in United States of America, right? We do not have a Barack Obama. We have a certain gentleman who has his own reason to justify and maintain the US influence. Imagine him withdrawing from the climate, the COPA, and the other international organization, and now he's threatening to go back against. Now do you understand the kind of flux? So what is he doing? It is his knowledge, his understanding, that is defining the way the world is functioning, whether you like it or not. So the whole production, the power is productive, meaning it creates new knowledge, new behavior, new discourse, and new forms of pleasure. Further on, if you would read Foucault, he talks about that, what is recognized as truth in society is perhaps the sibling of power. One doesn't know if this really is truth, because truth is always a very contested term. Whom are we talking or writing about? So whether he is writing about the history of madness and civilization, or is writing about the history of sexuality, or about that of criminality, he's continuously critiquing. And in the end, he says that the docile body, those of us who are agreeing to what is happening in the academia, we are like docile body, and the global knowledge system has this surveillance to tell you that you are from the world country, you don't fit to be in the scopus. So whatever students that would come out would always be a grade or two below. So we are happy, and if few of us can break this and jump to the other side, they become hero amongst us. They were those who were thus. So resistance. But are we ready? I do not think so, because everybody, it's nice to listen, it's nice to talk, but tell me, where do we have the resources to find this kind of a knowledge juggernaut, which is rolling all over the world and crushing anything which seems to question its dominance? Okay, so I as I already said, in medicine, the power dynamic between a doctor and a patient, where medical knowledge allows for the diagnosis, categorization, and treatment of people, regulating their lives. You go to a doctor and says, yes, tell me, what are you? By the time you have not even finished, you would see many of them would have given the prescription and would have told you, please buy this medicine and come after 7 days. I often wonder that when people like me and go and tell them, would you also write the name of the salt that is there so I can look for a medicine which is not for this brand? They would start staring at you and tell you, please do not Google so much if you want to get well. Buy this medicine and eat it. So the doctor in the Western discourse takes an onus that he or she operates from the know all proposition. You can't discuss your body. It is your body, but he or she has the authority to tell you that, look, this is what is good for you, this is what is bad for you. So you go and they would tell you. We all have heard of this great industry of transplant, bypass. One doesn't know if lifestyle modification or some other good medication or other kind of ways in which this could have, but you go for an ECG. There are some, I've heard so many of my colleagues who are senior to me that they went for a normal ECG in the morning, next day they were tried to go in for the echo and then the TMT, and next what I heard, that they have unka bypass ho gaya, that they have got a stent inside them. I do respect the doctors, they must be very great, but I don't understand that what led to so many stent coming into the Indian's heart, rather than kindness, rather than love, rather than humor. I don't know. So it seems the more stressed you are about the West, the more stent you are inviting. Jokes apart. Okay. Now let's come to another thinkers, Thomas Kuhn, who talked about the structure of scientific revolution. It's a beautiful book. It's a quite an old book now. No, the structure in which he says that every knowledge that we are having is a paradigm. Like there was a biblical paradigm, especially from the Old Testament, where it says, and then God created the earth, and earth was the center of the universe. And there is this gentleman called Copernicus comes, who doesn't challenge. He just says that, look, earth is not the center of the universe, but it is sun which happens to be the center of the universe. So they take him to the king and says, if today he challenges, and that is how from Old Testament in due course you get New Testament, and there are a lot of preachers who are taking in science and in, because they understand that whatever has been said would always be revised, would maybe not the core, but the other part would have to move as there is a continuous accumulation of facts. And knowledge does not advance into linearity, as even Foucault said. But the, Thomas Kuhn would say that the revolutionary shift, commonly known as paradigm shift. So maybe after this war gets over, we would have to rethink about oil. We would have to rethink about energy. We would have to rethink about global dollar as a international currency. Again, there might be a paradigm shift. Okay, so Kuhn argued that knowledge is produced within a paradigm, a shared set of assumptions, method, values, and theories shared by a scientific community. This concept reframed scientific progress from a solely objective cumulative process into one shaped by social and psychological factors, right? So you hold to something which is very dear to you in terms of, I remember there was a time when in India everybody did a village study, because that was a time when M.N. Srinivas, who was a student of Radcliffe Brown, or his guru Bronislaw Malinowski, there were functionalists, there were Durkheimian, and then there were people like A.R. Desai who were Marxists. So at that time they seemed to be, but now people look at the Indian society in so many other ways, from a feminist perspective, from a subaltern perspective. So again, all these are paradigm shift which are happening, and every time this paradigm shift happens, this theoretical foundation of knowledge production, according to Kuhn, would start to shake, and then it would shift. Okay, so then very quickly he would talk about normal science, because most the puzzle solving, puzzle solvers, to refine the current theory, refine instrument. That is how change happens, because the existing knowledge does not answer everything. So the first thing that people start to look at is what? They start looking at if we can do certain small kind of quick fixes that would give. But when it doesn't happen, then there is a sense of anomy. In Durkheimian word, it is a sense of normalness. The scientific community or the knowledge community doesn't know the existing knowledge. It tells them, no, no, this can't be explained. Why is this happening? One cannot see the reason why this is happening. So whenever I watch the sci-fi movies like Interstellar, when you travel in time, or you go through those great structures which are between two galaxies, and you can do travel time, there's a time worm. I i really think I would not be alive, but will ever be a paradigm shift of so much greatness that this can really happen? And believe me, a part of me says yes, because maybe 100 years ago my forefathers would have never thought that you would land on moon or Mars, or we would send a rover to Mars. They would not have just thought, they would have prayed, they would have chanted hymns in their name. So science, I would not use the word science, in fact he does that, but I would say knowledge is revolutionary. It changed the way you look at what is now and what might become. So there are infinite possibilities, there are infinite potentialities. Okay, so from absolute objectivity to social construction, from linear to cyclical, knowledge does not accumulate steadily. It advances in cycles of stability. Normal science, we believe, okay, so there was a time when all of us knew how to do Excel, we knew how to do Word, we knew how to do PowerPoint, and now there's a disruption. You need not do anything. You buy a good package and it will do everything for you, right? So from absolute objectivity to social construction, now we are questioning that whole argument about being as objective as natural sciences are, because we realize that what counts as truth is determined by the consensus of scientific communities, influenced by values, training, and institutional authority. Why did you get jabbed by only three brands of vaccination in India, whereas in other country it was another two brand, but in US there was altogether different brand? Why in India you can't go to the court and sue this company, but in many of the European countries, people are suing this country, where they say that this was just like an placebo effect. Why was it injected? Nothing happened to me. So this switch, this conversion, adopting a new paradigm is not merely a logical decision, but often acts like a gestalt switch or conversion experience, a completely new way of viewing the world, right? So when I look at all these new fads which are there in terms of food, in terms of fasting, in terms of feasting, only protein diet, live the carbohydrate, go for intermittent fasting, only on liquid diet, I realize that it is not that these things are important, but that to always have something exciting to follow which would challenge the established. This is the basics of human nature. We as human beings are continuously involved in this knowledge production, and we want to challenge. Now what is the impact and legacy of Kuhn's work? So obviously in social sciences, he pioneered scientific knowledge studies, and how social context of scientists shapes the scientific truth they create. This perspective challenged positivist assumption that views science as a direct objective accumulation of truth about nature. I don't know how many of you have watched this movie called Oppenheimer. But when you watch that movie and you understand what was the kind of duality or the dilemma that he went from the perspective of knowledge, he was questioning himself. If this would happen, what would be the impact? At one level, he was deeply attracted or attached to the idea of achieving this. But the another level, he was understanding that he was playing with something very, very dangerous. Obviously, Nagasaki and Hiroshima were the byproducts of his of his feverish mind. I mean, like, what he feared for went on to happen. So I talked about Copernican revolution. In modern physics, we don't talk about Newtonian mechanics, we talk about quantum mechanics, so on and so forth. So this is a kind of a picture which would say that there is at the core of knowledge production is this first world rich tech advanced countries. I would not like to name those universities, but all of us know, though are part of European Union, America, a bit of Canada. And then there is this second world or middle income country. They are semi periphery, closely ties to the global economy, providing inexpensive labor intensive workforce. Maybe few of the Indian institutes are also in this category, where many students, after completing their 4.5 years, exactly would want to jump to the first world country. Many people call those working in Silicon Valley as Boston Brahmins, because from a certain state, there were so many people going there and contributing to their economy, to their knowledge. And all these countries that you look at, where they have this big company controlling, many of the head are from Asian background or Indian background. Now, the big question is, they were born here, they did their basic education there, but still they go on to question our learning apparatus. They go on to question our sense of understanding, sense of comprehension, sense of numerical ability. But when these very students go to their university and do a PhD, they end up opening up a company which contributes to their economy and thus their global occupation. Okay, and then the third or low income country, which are at the periphery because they produce more raw material less. So what is happening? All the oil that the Venezuela would produce would now be refined in the American refinery and will be sold all over the world. The same is happening if you look at the sub-Saharan, the kind of mineral rich that they are, that every time a military junta is thrown away, a new comes into the place, it's all with the support of the government in the Western world, who supports and wants his or her own pound of flesh. So Immanuel Wallerstein world system theory posits that global inequality is structurally embedded in a capitalist world economy, divided into core, semi-peripheral, and peripheral region. Is the same case with the university that we have. There are certain hotbeds of learning in the world which are core. Then of these university in many of these countries, there are offshore campuses, and few of the universities of this country which are called semi-peripheral, and then there is the peripheral region. Knowledge inequality is a key pillar of this structure. Core nation maintain dominance by monopolizing high value tech intensive production and academic knowledge, while peripheral nations are constrained to low skill resource intensive activities, right? So the whole argument that I have tried today is, when I'm coming, is that how would the India and the global south would look at all these theories. So I would look at it in terms of how these countries as marginalized groups are excluded from knowledge production under the Western understanding of knowledge production. And obviously, there's something which I should have, sorry for this, I should have come earlier. Gender inequality is a big thing even in the first world country, because we know women remain underrepresented in academia, particularly in leadership role, especially in STEM fields. Then there are we all know linguistic and institutional barrier, as English dominance and institutional hierarchies limit the visibility of diverse knowledge system. India represents a rapidly evolving research ecosystem with increasing global visibility. Undoubtedly, it ranks among the leading contributor to global research output, though ranking vary depending on measurement methods. Now, this is also so. One thing is that many of the Indians who study in India, but for higher study, when they go to the West co opts them. The West treats their publication, their contribution as one of their own, right? So, what we need to do exactly, which I think the new education policy does try and address. It says that there should be a lot of research expansion, interdisciplinary learning, and the best part, according to me, is the revival of Indian logic system. We have to look within and search for answer which our own society is facing as well as the world is facing. So I think overemphasis on publication in terms of quantity, bureaucratic constraint, uneven institutional development, these things should be fought, and we have to somehow not agree to the core dominance, at least in social sciences. No, I'm not somebody, but let's not get peripheral marginalization. We must tell our children that when you study from the Indian universities, let's make our own economy, our own land, our own country. I do not mean that you should only stay within the borders. You must travel, but you must travel with a strong local imprint when you step up in the global world. Okay, and let's end this unequal exchange which we see in terms of brain drain. So many people have talked about it. So now Wallerstein would argue that this structure is just not about wealth, but about controlling the mechanism of productivity, such as patents and high-tech industries, which are concentrated in the core. If you would look at the problem between the China and Taiwan, believe me, as a scholar, for me it is less about land than about the technology which Taiwan is very good in doing something with semiconductors, which almost everything in the world which is to do with gadgets and gizmos require. So what do you do about it? So the academic and scientific structure, which are often termed as structure of knowledge, are used to legitimize this unequal system and marginalized alternative non-Western perspective. Tell me, I understand that nuclear physics is a part, and the applied part of it also resulted into something beautiful which is called nuclear medicine. But I fail to understand that why not the scientists all over the world strictly adhere that we would not make system which can bring to the end of the world. There's a continuous perpetuation in this capitalist world system, ensuring that the core stays wealthy and the periphery remains poor. And how it is done? Through the very act of controlling the knowledge production. So knowledge inequality in the contemporary world is a pervasive multi-dimensional crisis where access to information technology and education is heavily stratified. Why globally? Even in our own country or the whole of the Asian subcontinent. Okay, so the global, so it is important for a sociologist or a social scientist to reveal that knowledge production is not neutral but embedded in institutional and geopolitical structure. Thus, it is important to create a more equitable system. But how do we plan to do it? So you recognize diverse epistemology. I remember I went to Kerala, and there's an institute called Kila, Kerala Institute of Local Administration. And out there, I had done a paper on a village in Rajasthan, which is one of the best examples of democratic decentralization. That village is known as Tilonia. And in that village, it is the children who decide what would play on the radio and what would be allowed in the village of Tilonia. So, I could feel that here was a system where there was a equitable system. So, after 1 or 2 days of conference, we were taken in Kerala to the villages. So I was so happy to hear this, that a village had the right, whether they wanted an allopathy doctor, whether they wanted a Unani medicine man, or whether they wanted a yoga treatment doctor in their village, or whether they wanted some other Ayurvedic acharya in the village. So much of power was given to the people to decide. That is what is required. Recognize diverse epistemology. I do understand that if you boil a certain bark of a tree and drink it and do lot of yoga and do not go to this multinational shop to stuff yourself, you will never ever get a disease. I appreciate and respect this epistemology. Meanwhile, for some reason, if you are suffering from breathlessness, you are sweating and you're feeling a sense, then I would not ask you to do yoga, but would like you to go to the OT and get yourself examined thoroughly. For me, even this epistemology is not superior or inferior. It is equally valuable as the other. So, promote interdisciplinary collaboration, address structural inequalities, and most importantly, democratize access to knowledge. Let everybody debate. Let everyone be a part of the deciding mandate. So, the key aspect of knowledge inequality in the end would be, we have to fight knowledge as capital. Knowledge is now viewed as a critical capital resource. Its unequal distribution often is termed as knowledge resource inequality. It is happening all over the world. We have to be very conscious about it. Why? Once when it will get it already has. But if scholars like me and you, if we will not struggle against them, then slowly and slowly, with privatization, the quality of the education that would be given to student, especially those coming from the subaltern class, would be so different that they will stay entrenched to where they were born in. So let us not talk about an enclosed knowledge economy, which is now protected by intellectual property rights, patents, or it's now, let's have a knowledge which is not copyright but copy left. Okay, countries, firms with enclosed knowledge, largely in the global north, secure monopoly profit, while those relying on computerized knowledge experience lower competitive profits. Digital and educational divide, we all know this happened so strongly during the COVID-19, and it has lot of impact on development, to which many of me and you belong. We all belong to the middle income track, uh, and we are not only us, we also go on to define our nation. So we are always in fascination of foreign knowledge to the knowledge which is indigenously produced. Are you wearing a Nike? Do you have a Rolex in your hand? Do you have a Audi or a BMW to drive? All these brands tell you in their old field that the knowledge that has gone while building this product is fabulous. And then the Western would come on the contrary and talk to us about our bullock cart capitalist. Can you see what we are praising and how we are understanding? Does knowledge based on inequality determine who suffers most from environmental degradation, showing that such divides are deeply ingrained in the physical, social, and political landscape? So we all can't remain very objective. And then there are these drivers of inequality. They are traditional publishing model, subscription fees, or now what they are calling as processing fees for academic journals remain prohibitive for many, hindering access to research in low income area. Then there's a technological shift, AI. how many people would be able to buy these various kind of tools, who has the money, then policy and market openness. So these are some of the issues which I dwelt upon in terms of. So for me, knowledge inequality is not just a technological or educational problem. It is a fundamental driver of modern global economic disparities in which me and you are caught, demanding holistic, structural, and political solution. So what I would again say, that let's democratize access to knowledge and have more such kinds of workshop where we can talk about this as a call for paradigm shift. Thank you. Thank you. Bennett, I'm done with this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Uh, Dear participants, now the group is open for discussion. Those who want to ask your doubts, you can ask your doubts. We are opening the group. We have locked the group for to avoid disturbance. Now we are opening the group.
I hope Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I appreciate all the thumbs up which I can see. But much more than thumbs up, we all live in an era of interconnectivity. There has to be lot of I would say maybe digital social movement which would lead us towards what I have talked about. It must be a common concern for all of us. It is not important of what I talked about, but it is very, very important that whatever we shared, we must start acting upon it. We must bring out an in house journal with as much rigor as possible, with as much objectivity as possible. But let us not mimic the Western standard. Let us have our own voice. Let us pat our back that we are, if not equal, we are better than them, because our culture, our tradition, our background, our civilizational discourse, had it not been enriched, it would not have been so ancient and so deep. So there are reasons to rejoice, there are reasons to celebrate, there are reasons to go on and further work towards knowledge production rather than to surrender to the Western minds. Please, any questions? I'm ready.
Good evening, Rakesh sir. I am Dr.
Yes.
Meenakshi from Patna University.
Oh, hi, Dr. Meenakshi. Great to hear from you. Yes, ma'am. Please.
It's a privilege to hear you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So you just talk about Scopus published journals, North versus South campus of DU, and prevalent use of the English language as we people are doing now.
And I'm
So
also guilty of that. I admit I'm guilty of that. I
no, you
admit.
told that as it is an international, we are
Yeah,
internationally
seminar,
connected.
seminar.
So
Yeah, yeah.
no, sir, but unfortunately, when we are locally connected now, we are going to use it as to show our superiority. This is the curse. This
Yes.
is the
This is
biggest.
linguistic chauvinism which you are talking about.
Yeah, definitely,
No,
sir. So what
I
I just
I will
yes,
tell you, ma'am. You're from Patna, right? You're from
yes,
Patna. Yeah,
yes.
mother, it's very, very unfortunate. But when we used to be in Delhi University, there were
Mm-hmm.
certain sections of anglicized people from the state of Bihar who would not admit to people that they belong to Bihar.
Yes,
There was a deep
agree.
sense of, there was a deep sense of avoidance. Can you
Ji.
imagine if you
Mm-hmm.
fail to acknowledge the place from where you belong because you
Yes.
want to be, you want to be what you can never ever be. Now, this whole pretentious, whether it is knowledge production or your ethnicity, these are the things as a social scientist which we must continuously critique and talk about, right?
Ji. Yes, sir. So, what I actually want to ask, कि rather than seeing your journal as labeled by the Scopus or labeled by some renowned publication, if we add a column in that what is your contribution, either the journal is Scoopus, or you belongs to North versus South campus, or you are so called belong to a very privileged, very rich background. What is your contribution in the society? Give me couple of line that is all about your resume.
Yeah, that makes sense. Action sociology, action sociology. In fact, have you heard of a UGC decision? Whatever topic you do your PhD on, in the end, you will have to write 2 to 3 pages. How is it relevant to the society? I think it's a very, very welcome change. It's a very good idea, ma'am. Maybe the next time when I sit in an interview, I'll start asking questions by reading those 3 pages from the PhD thesis rather than going to the hypothesis or the research question.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
Because I
I
think this is
I
the
fully agree with
only question. This is the only question which clear the disparity, and it can discriminate between what is a good brand and what is a bad brand. If we
you. Yeah,
talk about
true.
the
Very true.
branding, and if we talk about the Scoopal Journal, as you was explaining that, if our research publication belongs to a normal journal, people generally get avoided, isn't that? Because you don't
Yes,
have
that's
that brand of Scoopus.
Scopus. That's
The
true. That's true.
unfortunate part is that scoopers, I have seen many scoopers papers, sir. They, in fact, they don't have any rocket science, rocket science conclusion, all that. They have been published in scoopers, that's all. I am genius. Why? By because my 110 paper has been published in scoopers. That is my prestige, that is the symbol of my intelligence, that's it. No one is going
That's
to ask what you have contributed. If you have 110 paper, tell me one or two contribution in the society. Because I belongs to Department of Economics, so social sciences always talk about the science which is related and which is connected to the society. So it's a very unfortunate part of ours, and it is so deep rooted now you can't eradicate it. So misfortunate we people are now. And your last para was about be proud of your culture. Sir, new generation Gen Zs are completely unaware about healthy, generous, scientific knowledge system and scientific culture of Indian society. The sarcasm is that no book is telling them, no code structure is revealing the truth, nothing. The Indian knowledge system has somewhere avoided in a corner, and we people are not going to spread it among the Gen Zs. So they always feel, while the Western civilization has been pomped very well. So there are so many things when we talk about कि आप when we are discussing about the heart disease, मैं आपको बताऊं, body बाहर से assistance के लिए नहीं बनी है. What we get, it is automatically repair if you support it from the outside. Either it is a heart disease or a mind disease. I am telling you, 110 patient, mental patient, depression patient in America is now get treated by the moon charged water, because 75% of the ingredient of the human body is water, and the moon has the power to charge it. And this modern technique has been developed by us years and years ago कि पूर्णिमा की रात में आदमी को छत पे बैठना चाहिए, right? So
Yes.
somewhere we are unprivileged because हमें बताया नहीं गया है कि हमारा कल्चर कितना रिच है, कितना साइंटिफिक है. rather than rich, I have to use the word scientific. Why we should wear silver in legs, why we should being a married girl, I used to put bichiyas. Why we should put bichiyas and payals? Because all the negative and all the heatness of the body is cooled down by the silver. So that are the things which we are, and Gen Zs are completely unaware, and slowly we are going to miss it. So
Yeah,
thank
Dr.
you.
Meenakshi, I fully uh, appreciate the observations you are making, but we need to put all of this in a certain explanatory and exploratory way. So when you investigate your own culture, right, then you do not need to take sides. When you are investigating as a researcher, then you have to explore it with its all dimensions. So your whole issue of Gen Z is not only about Gen Z, it's also about the shift in parenting. It's also about the status of the conjugal relationship that we see in this country. It is also about the neoliberal capitalist society that we live in, where we have made Indian marriages a big tamasha, in terms of conspicuous consumption, as Veblen would like have to talk. So I truly appreciate your concern. These are very, very deep rooted concern. But you're very right. People must get together, and if they can have a catalog of all that can be collected, which is local and which can be looked anew from a perspective which is indigenous, and it can be written about. See, what is the whole problem out here is that the understanding of the Indian social structure is based on the Western vocabulary. We need to develop our Indian vocabulary, which should be able to explain things not only to us but also to the global audience. Because remember one thing, scholarship is also about acceptance. At one level, there is a politics of non acceptance to keep you entrenched at the position in which you are. But when we start to raise the concern, raise our voice, so then our standing should also be so rigorous and solid so that we can start as an alternative. Because we also must not submit to everything, anything that happens to belong to us as something sacrosanct. Because in science or social science, your
Mhm.
gaze need to
Mhm.
be that continuously critiquing, questioning. So after
Absolutely.
doing so much of it, when the purity comes, it is then that knowledge which stands against the tides of time. So, but very rightly said. I truly appreciate your comment, Dr. Meenakshi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you. Any
Yes.
more questions, gentlemen, ladies? If I missed out on something, maybe next time when we meet, I would try and definitely add on, because I am also evolving, reading, learning like we all are, right? So I would not say that for anything I would have said the final word. I would say that I too am in a part of further improvising my understanding with the times and the place that I live in. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So thank you so much, sir. There is a beautiful reading called the term education is a learning process where learning comes from questioning and logical reasoning. So really, we have enjoyed your class, and I'm really happy for the participant who asked question in a beautiful way. Even I also thought of asking the same question, how the culture has been changed, transmitted from one society to another society, and how we are changing, and the importance of publication and the contributions. It is a beautiful class, sir. Hope we all enjoyed today. And sincerely, I have to thank you personally for accepting the invitation. And the first day itself, a big hit with 200 participants, and none of the participants left. Is of course there's a technical glitches when because many participants are from Manipur, Nagaland, and Mizoram. They are having some network issues. So for that purpose only, we have given live streams, sir. So sincerely thanking you on behalf of the Army Secretary and IIDM and all the collaborative institutions who take part of this beautiful event. Dear participants, we are successfully completing day one, still 11 days to go. Since today we have started late, even though we have started by 6 o'clock, we gave the time to serve by 8:20 only because we have a formal inaugural session today. So that is why we have taken 20 minutes of your time. From tomorrow onwards, we will be on time. So thank you so much for your patience listening.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. It was great talking to all of you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. I'm ending meeting for all.